Hello and welcome to the Entrepreneur and You and Territory and Petron series on entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Mike Kaysen. We're here today with Kevin Powell, who is a finance expert, a DVC adjunct professor, and a serial entrepreneur himself. Hey, Kevin, thanks for being here.
Absolutely, Mike. Thank you for hosting.
My pleasure. So let's get right into it. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. Well, originally I was from here. I was born in Walnut Creek, so not too far away, but I have traveled the country quite a bit. I've lived in Oregon and on the East Coast and in Hawaii. So essentially all coasts of the United States I've been on, a couple places in the middle. And I've been a serial entrepreneur. I've started numerous businesses, my first being when I was 17, when I had to get parental help just to kind of get things going. But I've been teaching in DVC now in various capacities for almost 7 years. And here I am today.
So tell me a little bit about your educational background.
Yeah, I once went to DVC a couple of years ago, but from there I jumped off. I went to John F. Kennedy University, got a degree in business administration, worked in the field as an operations manager for a number of businesses, was a chief operating officer for a production company, and then went back and got my master's degree as a master's in business administration to kind of hone in on my skills and really jump to that next level.
What do you teach now?
Currently, I just teach QuickBooks accounting. However, in the past, I've taught business communications as well as various summer courses, and I've helped folks in pretty much every single business course that we do have, from real estate to management and everything in between.
So tell me a little bit about that first business that you started.
Sure. Well, my very first business that I started had a very simple title. It was called Dog Business. Well, I cleaned up dog business. I also trained dogs, so it had multifacets. So I cleaned yards and I helped people train their puppies. It frankly was a great job for where I was at. It just kind of started out of a little bit of necessity. I needed money. I had a couple of skills and a shovel. And so it just started going. And it kept going. And for the most part, it got me through college. So the dog business was successful in the right that it ended on good terms and just closed things out, decided not the path that I wanted to go to long term, but it worked for what it was. The next business that I did, called Professional Memoirs, was essentially taking the photos and videos and stories of folks and converting them into memoirs. It is using photo scanning, digital editing, things along those lines. And I was working with an elderly gal who was very passionate about doing it, but hated the technology. So I did the technology. Eventually, she was incapable of really doing the business, so we kind of closed it. It wasn't an ideal close, so I consider it one of the failures, but it wasn't like a massive loss per se of wasn't going to keep going forward. From there, I had just graduated college. I jumped on board with a fledgling production brewing company. That was a very interesting experience. It ended very poorly. The owner was committing fraud. From there, I moved back stateside and started working at Diablo Valley College. I also have run a consulting company, actually, since just prior to the start of the Hawaiian business, the production brewery, and I've been running that all the way up into this point. So it's been consulting primarily with a company in Germany called Speidel, and they sell brewing equipment to breweries, and I have been a consultant on various facets of quite a few breweries, usually about 3 to 4 per year for the last 8 years.
So let's talk a little bit about that. I know one of your specialties is lowering costs and looking at a business and being able to say, all right, this is where your bottleneck is, this is where your issues are. Why don't you kind of talk to me about how you go into a company and what you would suggest to any corporation on how to get through that difficult time?
Yeah, that's a really important topic that some people put some effort into, and a lot of people don't put any effort into actually analyzing savings of cost. They just figure they buy stuff, The business works, it happens, it's great. A lot of folks that start businesses think it's just going to be amazing. Our sales are going to go through the roof. We won't have to do anything, but they don't actually look at how much it costs to get the new sales, how much it costs to develop that income, and how long it actually takes to start making income. And so I kind of take a realist approach from my years of experience dealing with production companies. I look at every single action that needs to be taken in order to get to the final product. So a lot of people just say, okay, well, I'm going to make beer, so we'll sell it for this much. It costs this much in materials, and that's it. Well, there's actually a lot of very small little things in the in-between that need to happen. You need to have employees managing, moving, filtering, testing. It takes time to get through each of those processes. It takes money, power, and you have to be able to hire the right people and pay them a certain amount plus benefits. And so there's a lot of little things that I think new entrepreneurs, they really don't think about the nuance of it. You know, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And so that's why I help folks see those nuances to see exactly how much the actual costs are going to be so they know what they're actually getting into.
So what are the typical mistakes that you have found when you come in?
A lot of people will put on their sales and their expected production lines and levels the absolute maximum that their factory can produce, period. And that's just not realistic. So what I find is I'll go over every action of usually a brewery, and we'll discuss how much time it takes. Let's say it's 15 minutes for this action and 25 minutes for that action, 3 hours for this action, say that's filtering, and 20 minutes for pumping it from one tank to another. And all these things add up. And when you're looking at your full production and you add up all of the time that it takes to do all of these things, most of the time we find that there's either not enough employees, or you would be expecting the amount of employees that you have to be working like 47 hours a day, which obviously isn't possible. So we modify those and kind of get a more real view on how many folks do you need to do this? How long is it going to take to get all these processes? And what is the real output of your production facility when you're operating at, let's say, 95%? As opposed to full bore.
So would it be safe to say that you are somebody who is a realist and you come in and you kind of put that realism in the books?
Yeah, that's usually my job, is to give a nice, well-rounded view that's as realistic as possible. Sometimes folks don't like to hear that. They're a little defensive of their grand schemes, but it's something that absolutely helps them.
I feel like that a lot as an attorney. An entrepreneur's job is to take risks, and an attorney's job is to mitigate those risks. So when you have two people coming at each other from opposing viewpoints, it can lead to animosity and challenges. So I could totally see how that could be an issue. So what advice would you give to brewers or to new companies in terms of taking a realistic approach?
A lot of the folks that I work with are owner operators. So they're doing the operations as well as owning the business. And I think that there really needs to be either a split role there or somebody that's full-time managing the business. If you're running a business that only has 1 to 5 employees, the owner / president may also be cleaning the bathrooms. And then you're more likely to fail because you aren't having that understanding of what my business truly should look like.
So it sounds like you're an advocate of this idea of let the creatives be creative, let the business person be the business person, and working in conjunction versus stepping on each other's toes.
You seem to know something about this, Mike.
Yeah, I do. All right, let's switch gears a little bit. What about a business plan? Is a business plan an essential aspect in your perspective?
I think most aspects of it are. You should definitely develop a business plan, and I think what most people miss is that business plans can be developed very quickly, and you don't need a million details in your business plan, but you need to have a guiding light to where you're going that is set in stone. Because if you really aren't able to put in enough effort, the 5 or 6 hours it takes to, make most of a business plan and the 2 or 3 hours to kind of proof over it, if you can't do that, you're going to start running into difficulties that require attention, that take more time and effort than that, and you'll probably be stymied and stop your business. So I really feel that business plans are just a good exercise for, proving that this is something you really, truly want to do and can do.
What do you think are the most overlooked aspects?
I think finance by far and away is the least understood and most overlooked aspect for sure. Just being able to get that money and when my money is actually going to come in and how I'm going to use that money.
So what do you think the keys to a successful business plan are?
Sticking to it. Once you make it, just keep going with it. If you're going to spend all this time to do so and you really think it's going to be successful, stick with it, follow it.
What's the best career advice you ever got?
My grandfather once told me, there's going to be like 20% of people that just don't like you, whether that's for the better or for whether they actually know you. There's just going to be 20% of people that don't like you. So don't bother trying to get them to like you and just keep going on about your merry way. And I think that number's too high, frankly, but he's kind of right. Sometimes some folks just won't work with you or, for a good reason or not. And sometimes you have to work with those people, whether you like it or not, because it may be a state official or governing, body. Especially in my industry, I have to deal with the TTB and the ABC, which are very difficult entities to work with, as well as the wonderful IRS.
Yep.
You can't take it personally. So that was some good and bad advice, I think, all wrapped into one. Not giving up. If you think you can do it, you can. That's certainly some of the best advice that I've been given. The worst advice, the absolute worst one, is trust me. When somebody says trust me, I start asking questions, because when they say trust me on this, usually they're about to feed you a load of malarkey.
Thank you very much for all of your time, Kevin. We really appreciate you being here. We'll see you next time on The Entrepreneur and You.